we come from, right? Chapter 18 is the summary. And chapter 17, Krishna was talking about how the modes influence the things like even the charity, austerity, right? So all those things are impacted by the three modes. Then Arjuna inquired that is renunciation is also impacted by the three modes? And of course, the answer is yes. And why Arjuna asked? Because the chapter one started with the Arjuna saying, I want to renounce, I don't want to fight. And you'll think that those are things which people feel, oh, that's very good. This person doesn't want to have anything, he wants to renounce. But then what we learn that renunciation, the dry renunciation is not suggested by Bhagavad Gita. And running away from our work is not suggested by Bhagavad Gita. On the contrary, we all need to work. Okay. So that's where it starts. So Krishna talks about the renunciation in three modes. Then he five factor of action we talked about, and this is a very important thing in terms of when we are looking into the work which we are doing. Sometimes we get success, sometimes we don't get the success. What happens? What are the factors which is coming into the picture? So there are five factors. This thanam is the context, right? Which is for us, like if we're doing the work through the body, then that's the context, right? Karta, we are the doer. Karanam, our senses, our effort, how much practice we do, and then the deva, right? And that's some people call it as a luck factor, but actually a deva factor. Okay. Then who is the real doer? So Lord goes into doership and non-doership. So we have to maintain our mentality that we are not the doer. We are just an instrument, and that that is the that's how, because we are not the controller, we control our, like, so we have been given the senses, that's what we are using, right? We have been context, the body kind of body we have got, the kind of senses we have got, that's not in our control. Effort we can do, but again, the determination, all those things are comes from the Lord, right? But we have to have the right inclination. So that's what we talked about in 13 to 17. And then the three modes control all activity in all beings. So what are the three motivators? So we talked about how the whenever we are doing the action, there is a motivation and there is an action. So we summarize, right? We took it little one bit higher, that there is a motivation and there is action. And then we divided, Miss Krishna talked about the constituents of actions, which is jnana, we talked about the work, we talked about the worker, we talked about, and the intelligence we talked about. The next two topics is determination and happiness. So that's what we will be covering. Okay. We had talked about like some of the example, not going there. Um, so here, karma in goodness, what it means, it should be anything which is regulated. That is the karma in karma is work in goodness. If it is regulated, if it is done with a lot of labor, right? And seeking to gratify our own senses. That's in the modern passion. And then ignorance is, oh, uh, I want to do the work even to harm other people, right? So those are the ones. Of course, those are like what it says. It creates the bondage by the Yamaduta. So these are the things which will for sure is going to keep us bound within this with material world. Even the karma in passion will bound it, right? It is the karma in ignorance. We are generating lot of baggage, which means that we are here for we don't know for infinity time. Okay. And karma in goodness, slowly it will lead to the work which the where the work can be done for the pleasure of the Lord, and that is the yoga. So anything which we are doing, that's the karma. But when we link it with the Lord, when we start offering the result of our work to the Lord, so we start from the nishkama karma yoga, but then we take the nishkama karma yoga. Okay, I don't want anything for me, but then the result is happening. So I say I don't want the result, but then I take the result and I offer it for the pleasure of the Lord. So anything I'm doing for the pleasure of Lord, that karma becomes karma yoga, right? And that leads to the purification. We'll see in the next section, varnashrama. Okay, so that's in the about the karma part. Then karta, right? We are the doer. So again, we have to do the work in the detached mode, devoid of false ego. So false ego, one very good way to understand the false ego is whenever we point the finger at anyone that it is due to you that this is the problem. 99.99% it is coming from our false ego. Okay, so whenever we have this tendency, and the best is to the see the our Grahastha life is a playground for us to realize where we are. Okay, in terms of our anartha and in terms of our progress, right? The spouse can be such a wonderful, beautiful partner, um, uh, where we both can progress and we can see our anartha through each other if we have a good partnership. Okay, so false ego, whenever you point the finger, oh, so to my wife, let's say for example, say, oh, due to you, this is the problem, or you said like this, you do. That's a very good indicator. That's my false ego through which I'm seeing it, and that's the reason I'm pointing the finger. I don't see that it may be my mistake first of all, or it can be the how the providence has arranged so that the mistake has happened and I'm pointing the finger. So there can be so many things ultimately, but when I'm pointing the finger, it means false ego, right? I think I am correct. So always think that's a very simple way to understand where the false ego is. So to start seeing the false ego is our is a great success, because then we may not like it, but slowly we will start to acknowledge it. When we acknowledge it, then we will make progress. Okay, and so of course it is done determination, right? When we are doing the work, we have a determination that's enthusiastic. So all those things, when we are attached to the work, that's of course in passion, acts against the scripture, that is in ignorance. Okay, so that's the work we talked about. And then the last thing we talked about, the intelligence. So buddhi in goodness, one knows what is to be done and not to be done. And in ignorance, it's just the opposite. What what should be done means what is to be done. We think that that it should not be done, and what is not to be done, we think that what should be done. See, just the takes everything in the opposite direction of the truth, right? For example, you say that, hey, we should read the scripture. A person in ignorance will say that, are you crazy? What is scriptures? Those are all mythology. Those are mythology. Is there a proof? Have you seen the God? Like, so that's the opposite, right? That one is not even trying to understand that, okay, to see the God, first of all, we see the people say that, do you see the God? Yeah, when you go to temple, don't we see the God? So people say that, oh no, those are stone. Okay, for that, for those people, is a separate matter, right? But for the people like us who are practitioner and we say that we haven't seen the God, it means that when we go into the temple and look at the deities, we think that there's a made of the material, and it is not the God, right? But those, that's the representation of the God has been welcomed there. God is there. Is that we are not pure and we are seeing it as a stone or a wood or something like that, right? For the atheist, they don't understand that to see the God, we need the specialized instrument, which is the purity of the heart. And unless we have that, we would only see it through our um, uh, corrupted vision. Okay, so the buddhi in goodness, one knows what is to be done and not to be done, to be feared and not to be feared, binding and liberating. Those, okay, which action is binding, which action is liberating. And in passion is one cannot distinguish, like the confusion. Should I do this? Should I do that? What is religion? What is religion? And why it happens? Because my self-interest is coming. When self-interest is coming, then we get bewildered. Then we don't see it through the eyes of the scriptures, right? As we start practicing and on our bhakti, we use the scriptures, we practice it. Lord purifies our consciousness. So as Lord is purifying our consciousness, it makes even it becomes much easier, right? It's much easier that we are able to identify that my intelligence is in goodness or passion. Okay, ignorance is much easier to understand. Okay, so here I had put another summary thing: dharma, dharma. They knows it. Compassion is confusion, and this is upside down understanding. Right, wrong knows it. Passion is confused, upside down, ignorance is upside down understanding. And then the goodness, basically, there is a clarity, the consciousness. And then passion, there's no clarity, there's always doubt. And the intelligence is impacted by the foolishness for the ignorance. Like Ravan is a great example. So I'll take a pause. Quick summary of all the things which we have covered. Does it make sense? Any questions, or can we progress? All right, then we'll move ahead with verse 33. धृत्याया धरायेते धारयेते
प्रत्ययया धारयते
मनः प्राणेन्द्रिय कृता क्रिया
मनः प्राणेन्द्रियक्रियाः
योगेन व्यभिचाराण्या
योगेन अव्यभिचारण्या
धृति सा पार्थ सात्विकी.
धृतिः सा पार्थ सात्विकी.
O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. Again, O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is so it's unbreakable, of course, it's really determined, which is sustained. What is giving that unbreakable thing is sustained by the steadfastness by yoga practice. So the person really understand how they are linked with the Lord and they are able to connect their endeavor with the Lord. So the steadfastness, they are very firm on that, and which thus controls the activities of the mind. So that is how it's connected, then our mind is under control. Because if the mind is not control, is wavering because I want to enjoy, then there won't be any determination, because then I'm looking for my self-interest, and depending on how my self-interest is going here and there, my determination will waver here and there. Okay, so activities of the mind, life, and senses is determination in the mode of goodness. Okay, so purport. And here I put some comment words. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the mode of materialization and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So in 14.26, the similar verse was there, like unbreakable devotional service, which is the same thing Lord is presenting here, right? In a different way. So yoga is a means to understand the Supreme Soul, one who is steadily fixed in the Supreme Soul with determination, concentrating one's mind, life, and sensory activities on the Supreme, engages in Krishna consciousness. That sort of determination is the mode of goodness. The word charinya is very significant for indicate that person who are engaged in Krishna consciousness are never deviated by any other activities. So very firm. Okay. यायातु यायातु धर्म काम कामार्थान्
यया तु धर्मकामार्थान्
प्रत्याधार्यते अर्जुन
धृत्या धारयते अर्जुन
प्रसेन प्रसेन प्रसेनगन्ना पालाकांक्षी फलाकांक्षी
प्रसंगेन फलाकाङ्क्षी
धृति स पार्थ राजसी.
धृतिः सा पार्थ राजसी.
But that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results, that determination by which one holds fast to fruity results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. So this we can all relate with, right? We are also like some people who are in mode of passion, especially in the work culture. People are very determined. Oh, I want to get the promotion. I want to grow. I want to this project to be successful. But it is by what is holding that determination? Fruitive results, right? Like economic development, basically in that case, economic development or sense gratification, or even in the religion that I want to people do the fasting. I'll be doing the 40-day fasting because then I'm going to get the result of that. So all those things are driven by the passion. So anything like dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So all those things are impacted by so these comes into the mode of passion. Okay. Any person who is always desirous of fruitive results in religious or economic activities, whose only desire is sense gratification, whose mind, life, and senses are thus engaged is in the mode of passion. And then what is ignorance? Yaya swapne yaya swapena bhayam sokam
यया स्वप्नं भयं शोकं
visadham madam evacha
विषादं मदम् एव च
na vimuchanti durmedha
न विमुच्यन्ते दुर्मेधा
riti sa partha tamasi.
धृतिः सा पार्थ सत्तामसि.
And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion. Such unintelligent determination, O son of Pritha, is in the mode of darkness. So that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming. So I am determined. Oh, yeah, I know I want to run my business, but I never take action, right? Or I am determined due to my fearfulness. Oh, I may lose the job. Let me keep working on it. Let me keep working on just due to that lamentation or moroseness, right? So all those things are sign of the in the mode of ignorance. She should not be concluded that a person in the mode of passion does not dream. Here, dream means too much sleep. Okay, dreaming is always present, either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. Dreaming is a natural occurrence. But those who cannot avoid oversleeping, who cannot avoid the pride of enjoying material objects, who are always dreaming of lording it over the material world, and whose life, mind, and senses are thus engaged, are considered to have determination in the mode of ignorance. So see here, Prabhupada gives the meaning, which is just not straightforward. At least I was not thinking, right? So dreaming here doesn't mean that I'm dreaming. So dreaming is like even in the mode of goodness, for the success of the project, one think, okay, this is how I'm going to plan it, right? But at the same time, they are working also. In the case of dreaming, they are just hallucinating in terms like even they shouldn't be doing it, right? Or they are sleeping too much, or they are just going against the scripture, right? Those are all the things which is Prabhupada is adding into the sleeping, that these people are sleeping. They really don't understand. So here I put some notes here. Determination, ignorance, there are five characteristics. Swapna, context here is disconnection from reality. So that is the right way to look. But whenever we are disconnected from reality, that's called swapna. That is the dreaming. And bhaya, which is the fearfulness of this world, which makes us become serious, is not bad, but fear which where we are making the false evidence and making it look real, right? That's the kind of fear we should avoid. So if so fear, so for example, anger can be used in a right way. Fear can also be used in the right way. Oh, I am in this material world. You see, what's going to happen is going to create birth after birth, birth after that. Let me become serious. But I'm not, oh, that everything I'm not doing o- out of fear, right? I understand the context that if I stay here, and then I focus on the determination grow, like I'm studying scripture, I'm doing the seva, right? So that is fine. And grieving, that's okay for a while, versus lamentation, keep grieving forever. So this is also very important. I want you to talk a little bit that many times let's say our close ones, relatives or friends, if they are suffering or they pass away, it's okay to grieve, right? It's okay because we are missing their association, and we have lived with them, and whenever we miss somebody, we cry. That's fine. That's also a sign of compassion, right? It can be compassion. But when we keep attached to that, I keep grieving about that. When my dad was here, it was so good. I don't need to worry about anything. Now he's not there. See how much problem it is. That is called lamenting. Okay, I'm keep grieving forever because again, there is very clear that I'm looking in terms when he was here, it was very good for me, right? It was just sense gratification. Okay. So may the good intelligence and the bad intelligence. Sleeping is okay, but keep sleeping is bad. So that's and when one continues in these qualities, when it should have been given up. Okay. So in that case, what happened? Mind is too gloomy or dreamy. It doesn't have the clear consciousness. So here I'd put again in summary, you can just look into it. We talked anyway. Okay. Now moving to the last one which Krishna talks about here, which is happiness. Sukham tva idani Sukham twidani trividham
सुखं त्विदानीं त्रिविधम्
Shrunu me bharat sabha
शृणु मे भरतर्षभ
abhyas ashad ramate yatra
अभ्यासात्र मते यत्र
dukhanta cha nikachati.
सुकान्तं च निगच्छति
O best of Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. A conditioned soul tries to enjoy material happiness again and again. Thus, he chews the chewed, But sometimes, in the course of such enjoyment, she becomes relieved from material entanglement by association with a great soul. In other words, a conditioned soul is always engaged in some types of sense gratification. But when he understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing, then he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness. He is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness. So, can anybody explain me what is chew the chewed? Because this is something Prabhupada used quite, he has used few times. So what is chew the chewed? What's your understanding?
I mean, even though that particular material happiness he has already tasted, he wants to, you know, have that enjoyment again and again.
Yeah. So what are some of the examples?
Um, Maybe like food wise, like, you know, you tasted, for example, um, rasgulla or something, so you want to have it again, kind of, you know the taste, but you still want to have it just for the sense gratification.
Sure. Yeah. So see, some of the things, simple thing which we are doing over and over, like, okay, I'm working in the job. I think this job is going to give me more pleasure than the other job. Let me jump there. This is becoming very political, right? That's okay. And we know that, hey, this job is giving trouble. Other job is also going to have trouble because that's the nature of the material world, right? Um, so as long as I can manage it. We should try to manage, because new job I got, it's going to be the same thing after a while. So that's one way. The other is looking into the life, right? So okay, okay. I want to get married. I want to have kid. I want to have sex. I want to have home. I want to do this. The last birth also I was doing the same thing. Still I have the same kind of attachment. That's called chewing the chewed, right? In some cases, like in the earlier, in the case of the job, that I can relate with, but I was married before, I had the children before. Those things we don't know, but through the scripture we know that it is my like n number of births. We don't know what number is that, right? And I have been doing that. Doesn't matter whether I was an animal or a man or a woman. I have gone through the same cycle, and still I crave for that, right? That's called chewing the chewed. So here are some of the references I had given, that this was also talked about. The material body is sure to end, right? 2.118 and 522 is material happiness has end. Happiness in the mode of goodness has to be cultivated. Abhyashad practice. So let's look 5.22. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasure have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Right? So the other way, that's chewing the chewed, because anything which is in this material world is going to have the misery. That's the nature of the world. That's how it has been designed. Okay, so moving to verse 37. Yattad agre visam eva.
Yat tagre visham eva.
परिणामे अमृतोपनम अपमम परिणामे अमृतोपमम
Pariname amritopamam.
तत्सुखम सात्विकम प्रोक्तम
Sukham satvikam proktam.
आत्मा बुद्धि प्रसादजम.
Atma buddhi prasadajam.
That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be in the said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. This is okay. This needs little bit understanding. When I was reading the Bhagavad Gita for the first time, this seems to be a little confusing. That why it is in the beginning it will be poison, and then the end it looks like a nectar. So just take the example, right? When you are doing you have to chant 16 rounds. Is it easy to chant 16 rounds? It means taking out 2 hours of something which you are doing. Maybe you are going for a walk, you are watching TV, you are spending time with your wife, children, husband, right? Now you're taking that 2 hour time, or you were sleeping a little bit more. Now you have to waking up early. Is it happy experience when we are chanting initially?
I think it's just like, mind is not being, you're not able to focus on the mind initially.
Right. So it's very difficult. So initially, why some of you are chanting less than 16 rounds? Because you're just making out the time. It just seems too painful, right? So it's like in the beginning, it just like looks like a poison. Okay, it's just like, oh, it's either waste of time, or I don't see the result of that, or it's time consuming. Oh, I will believe in the Lord, but it's very time consuming. I don't have time. I want to go camping or this or that. This is poison. But then as we start practicing, then slowly we realize how it is impacting us. For example, we start seeing the changes in ourselves. We are becoming more peaceful. We are like equipoised. We at least showing the symptom of equipoise. Or there's the issue with the work. People are getting laid off. Before I used to get stressed too much. I'm fine. Whatever Lord wants me to do, I'm just fine. Right? COVID is happening. Oh, I'll get sick. I'll die. My family member will die. Oh no, that's fine. Whatever the Lord wish, I'll take precaution. I'll continue with my work. Okay. Service. Okay, I'm busy at work, but service is really important. So we start going into it becoming slowly better. And then as we more advance, then you'll see people are in bliss, totally in bliss. Okay. And it's not that they are not having misery. They still have misery, but they don't get misery because the misery happens through the perception of the mind. Right? So even the devotees, the very exalted devotees, they get challenges in their life. But of course, those challenges, please pay attention, those challenges are not coming by karma. Those challenges are given by the Lord Himself for our purification. For external sense is the challenge, right? It may seem like a misery, but this person is his mind is is making the choice that whether I want to be misery or can I see it as a mercy of the Lord. Right? That's what happens. So even remaining in this world, these persons are in bliss. And you will see as you are making practices and progress, you will see these symptoms appearing in your life. Okay. um, you can take example means I don't want to means it will it's these are the things which we should discuss amongst ourselves, okay, amongst our spouse, or amongst with each other if we have friends. These are things to discuss that gives them more determination. Oh, I can then we can see that how much progress I have made so far. Okay. So again, initially whatever in the mode of goodness, there initially start with the poison. It seems like a poison, and then it becomes real nectar at the end. So, in the pursuit of self realization, one has to follow many rules and regulation to control the mind and senses and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison. But if one is successful in following the regulation and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. Okay, so here's some of the notes. Prasadam jam awakens one's to self realization. So this so born of the satisfaction, right? So that's the prasada jam. So born of the satisfaction. So child not so initially. This is a very good example. Initially, our child when the child if you had child if you have child didn't wanted to go to school. I know when I was a child, I didn't wanted to go to school. I will cry like for hours, and then my mom will be crying because I am crying. But then I'll go to school and then I studied. I made some progress, right? I am able to now sustain my family, and using that I'm able to even read the scriptures because I feel satisfied with the economic development and everything, right? So that is very important that initially child doesn't want to go, it seems like a misery for him, but then when he or she start learning, they can see the result and then they become happy. Okay. uh, Similarly for any medicine, right? Initially it's misery, but then after it cures, then because some of the medicines are very bitter, like especially ayurvedic medicines. Once it becomes it but it cures, then then we understand, oh, that medicine was really nectar. Okay. Um, so Chetu Darpanam is some. This requires a bit of discussion. So I'll just cover a little bit and then we'll move ahead. So this is the. Does anybody know where this Chetu Darpanam word comes in one of our prayers?
Mm, I don't think it's there in the Mangalacharana Prabhu.
No, it's not
I,
in Mangalacharan Mataji. No, it's not. You're right.
yeah, I think it's in a I think Gauranga Arti or somewhere I've heard, I guess.
Yeah, Sikshastakam. Sikshastakam is the 8 verses which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally wrote. He didn't write any scriptures. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did the conversation with our Goswamis like Sanatan Goswami, uh, Rupa Goswami, right? And then some other Goswami, they were in touch with the associates of the close associate of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like Ramananda. Like so, these are different names from the Gaur Leela. Initially, these all new names, so it doesn't make sense to us. But slowly try to understand. These are the characters from the Gaur Leela, and the only one thing which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote is Sikshastakam, is 8 verses. And those 8 verses, if we understand, that's the essence of our bhakti. This is something Swati had shared in our WhatsApp group. She has moved to San Diego, and there one of the Maharaj, when he was young, he had just not only sung it, we sing it every day here in the temple. And that's where you would have heard Cheto Darpan Marjanam. So, what he says, our cheto, darpan is just like a mirror, right? But it's covered with the dust, right? It's covered with the dust. When we start removing that dust, then it becomes like a mirror, right? So it goes. So that's that. So initially, when you're trying to clean it, it's very hard. It becomes even looks very dirty initially. Let's say there are a layer of dust, it looks dark. But when you pour the water and try to clean, it becomes even darker, right? It looks that what did I do? Did I really made the mess out of it? But then we slowly keep working on it and slowly then start seeing, oh, this is how the mirror should look like. So initially it's tough, but then it becomes a happy experience. Okay? And then till we come to the spiritual level, it may be a struggle, but once we get there, it's completely blissful. We talked about we should not be in the happiness seeking mentality, but should be in service seeking mentality. Somewhere or the other, we can always serve. So this is also an important point I wanted to make. Initially, when we come to the class, I might have said that you'll get. Do you really want to enjoy it? This is the real joy is in Krishna consciousness and all. And you're thinking, I didn't see the real joy. And there's there are two levels to understand it, right? If you're looking from the external perspective, probably you're still getting misery. The misery hasn't stopped, but the perspective to see the misery must be changing. For some of you, it must have changed. For some of you, it might be a journey. Still, you are going, but you are understanding that it's a journey, right? So, what we have to go away from this joy seeking or a peace seeking mentality. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, right? In the later verses we'll see that how one will come to the platform where it's complete bliss, but we have to start with the service seeking mentality. We have to serve, we have to learn to serve the Vaishnava, we have to learn to serve the other devotees, we have to start rejoicing in serving then being served. That is very important for Krishna consciousness. Okay, whether it's a spousal relationship where we am expecting everything from my spouse, to changing that how I can make my spouse happier, what he or she wants. Let me do that, not for sense gratification, but you think, okay, if that's going to make her happy and it's not your, and that is the right thing to do, let's do it. Of course, if it is not something we should be done, you shouldn't do it. But if it is the right thing to do, it's going to make your spouse happy, do it. And do it, and then will derive more pleasure. And this is something is very relatable. You all must have experienced that when you do something for your spouse without expecting anything, the kind of joy and the peace and the fun you have is beyond anything, even compared to what if he or she could have done something for you, right? You enjoy more giving than taking. should be looking for result, right? So initially we say that, oh, I'm not, when I'm chanting, I'm not enjoying. I am I'm not enjoying. But see that initially that's the ruchi, right? That I should be enjoying. For that, anartha nivritti has to happen. We are in the anartha nivritti stage. Or even before that, we may not be even doing complete sadhu sangha, right? How many times we miss the class, or we miss the other spiritual activity because I have some other thing to do, right? So we are in the very beginning phase, and once we go through the anartha nivritti, ruchi is bound to happen. And some of you have started chanting. They due to the is there's little understand, there's little determination, or some of you maybe also finding it very nice that you are chanting, you're taking the Lord's name, and that's the beginning phase of having some interest. It's not a ruchi of the level what the stage of the bhakti talks about, but nonetheless, it's a reflection of the ruchi, right? Where we see the little pleasure when we are chanting. Okay, so with that, I'll make progress. Next verse. Vishayendriya samyogad
विषेन्द्रिय संयोगा
God yattad agre pamam
यत्तत् अग्रे अमृतोपमम्
pariname visham eva
परिणामे विषम इव
tat sukham rajasham smritam.
तत्सुखं राजसं स्मृतम्.
That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end, is said to be the nature of the passion. So initially it's very pleasurable, like eating ice cream, very pleasurable. But then keep eating five, six ice cream, and then the problem happens. Or maybe I want gulgappa. I'm eating a lot of gulgappa or gulab jamun. When you're on the 20th or 30th, and then you'll see the problem. That is not that sweet because the tummy ache or the problems, right? So we understand. It's a simple example here in the purport. Prabhupada also goes to the example. A young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, and to have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but the end or after some time, it becomes just like poison. So here again, you say, "Oh no, I used to have the bodily connection with my wife, still so pleasurable." What do you mean? Is the time like is 1 year, 3 year, 10 year, 15 year, 30 year, 50 year? Is the spectrum, right? What you had kind of senses, and what you felt like in the first year, what you felt in the third year, what you felt in the 10th year, you can compare yourself. What here Prabhupada is talking about, they are separated. They are separated, or there is divorce. People say, oh, I don't have a fire. 7 year itch, there's movie on that, right? Typically they have seen that after 7 years people just want to go and break their relationship because they don't see the fire, because there is no sense enjoyment, or there is a lamentation. Okay, so that's what Prabhupada talks about. So here in again chapter 14, Raso Phalam Dukham Parinam Visam, eating food, good, but keep eating, which is the example, right? And ultimately leads to miserable if we keep eating, right? Uh, so that's what we talked about. Okay, verse 39. Yad agre yad agre chanu bandhe cha
यदग्रे चानुबन्धे च
sukham mohanmatmanam
सुखं मोहनम् आत्मनः
nidralasya parmadotham
निद्रालस्य प्रमादोत्थं
tat tamasam udaharatam.
तत्तामसमुदाहृतम्.
And that happiness which is blind to self realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arise from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. So this is very clear example. The people who is drunkard, right? Like, are they not happy? They feel, oh, I am the happiest person, but that person is drunk so much that he's lying near the garbage, right? And he's feeling happy, and the other people are saying, like, think, oh, look at this poor person, look at this poor person. But that person is feeling he's enjoying, right? That is the mode of ignorance. Okay, so it's not that people don't feel happiness, but the kind of happiness, what level of happiness they are seeking, right? Am I lower grade happiness just want to drink, or just keep having the bodily connection with the different partners, going to the outside the marriage? Is that the kind of happiness we seek? And then we are going to have, of course, it is not conducive, and then it's always lead to misery. Okay, it's always leads to misery. Even a lot of people, they want to go on vacation quite a lot, and then they also always have trouble, right? I've seen that. Um, so what Prabhupada is writing, one who takes pleasure in laziness and in sleep, like even for sleep, oh, on the weekend I want to really sleep a lot, right? And then I used to do that, and then whenever I would on Saturday, Sunday, sometimes I'll sleep after even I came to Krishna consciousness. I thought, okay, Saturday, Sunday I'll sleep. And then I'll be feeling miserable that I wasted 2 hours, man. I would have completed my chanting in the morning. It feels so miserable. Now on the weekend, there is a desire, like today for example, there was a chanting session by Gaurang Prabhu. I Even though I slept late, I woke up at 3:30, took bath, shower, went. I felt so good that okay, after I came and there was some chanting remaining, I completed and feeling so good. Wow, chanting is done. I can focus. The chanting is not in my back of the mind that I have to still do chanting. Otherwise, the mind is always saying chanting, I have to do chanting. So it's not a happy act to chant. It's like it's a forceful act. Like it seems like a passion is coming. Rajas is coming, right? So even sleeping, it just like too much sleeping is just not good. We need to sleep enough to make sure the body is rested, but sleeping too much, that is the happiness in mode of ignorance. Okay, so one who has no idea how to act and how not to act is also in the mode of ignorance. For the person in the mode of ignorance, everything is illusion. There is no happiness either in the beginning or at the end. For the person in the mode of passion, there might be some kind of ephemeral, ephemeral happiness in the beginning, and at the end, there's a distress. But for the person in the mode of ignorance, there is only distress both in the beginning and at the end. So I think covered the alas pramad, right? We have covered yuktahara viharasya, right? So that was again in chapter 16, that too much of sleep is not good. And then even for there are four level of consciousness. Um, Sleep is in the form, like one is the wakeful sleep, right? You are always sleeping and then getting up. You are always aware that something's happening. You are sleeping, but you are always aware that, oh, your wife came in the room, your son went out of the room, or something happened, or you heard some noise in the kitchen, but you are sleeping. So there's a wakeful sleep, right? Then the dreamy sleep, when we are dreaming, something is happening, the deep sleep. And then the state of ekatma, like where completely focused, there is no awareness of anything, right? So these are the four different level of consciousness, right? And they are compared with the sleep, like how sushupti, how our consciousness is sleeping. So when I am sleeping, my consciousness is sleeping, it doesn't know that I'm wasting my time unnecessarily, right? And that's where I wanted to present to you that these are description of these things in our scriptures. It is talked in the Astanga Yogi also, in the Astanga Yogi case, because they are also trying to concentrate. So Ekat Atma is like a complete, the last stage where one is completely focused on the Lord. Okay, so being one with the self, the oneness of self. So this is all from coming from Mandukya Upanishad. That's where, okay. Drinking I talked about, Rajasic and Tamasic I talked about, and then the standard of happiness we seek. Right, this also I talked. What kind of happiness we are seeking a happiness, like a higher taste I am seeking, or the lower taste of happiness I am seeking. The choice is ours. And then we have to practice. In the mode of goodness, the happiness, it requires practice. One, like it's just like a music. If you're a musician, if any of you are lucky to be a musician, right? I wish I could have been a musician. I could have learned the instrument. Um, because that brings this really helpful for the focus concentration from a material perspective. It also brings it adds one tool in the repository to connect with the Lord through the bhajan and a kirtan, right? You are doing just singing. I see my son, he just goes plays harmonium and then he's singing the Lord's name, doing the kirtan spontaneously. It's not for doing for anybody. He's just doing between him and the Lord. I cannot do that. I'm not spontaneous because I don't know harmonium. So that's the higher taste, right? So that's the higher taste we have to develop. Like these classical musicians, when we are hearing, we don't get the taste. But when the classical musician hear that higher taste, they enjoy, wow, what a music, right? So it requires practice, learning, and then we can really understand the class of music which is being played. Okay, similarly, the happiness in the mode of goodness require practice. Initially, we have to start with the four regulative principles, and then chanting. doing the seva, and then we'll see how our life is changing very fast. Okay, so this is a summary of the happiness in the mode of passion. The net is the happiness initially it seems poison, then at the later it will become nectar. Passion is initially is nectar, then later it becomes poison. And in the case of ignorance, they are just don't know what real happiness is. They are just delusioned, right? So again here I put a table for ourselves. So in the experience, like so in the beginning, in the mode of goodness is poison. In the mode of passion is nectar. Ignorance is poison anyway. Experience at the end, the goodness become nectar, passion become poison, and ignorance is poison. Like so, drinking is a poison, and I'm just thinking that is bliss, right? It's poison. Impetus of action driven by duty, that oh, this is what I have to do. Okay, I have to follow the four regulative principles. That's the right thing to do. For the passion is sense gratification, I want to enjoy. And in the ignorance is sleepiness, lazy attachment, and that's oh, I want too attached to drinking, right? And then self realization, motivated to do it. And then in the ignorance is blinded to do it. There's both attachment, one is motivated, other is blinded. Okay, so verse 40. न तद् अस्ति पृथिव्यं वा पृथिव्यां वा
न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा
दिवि देवषु वा पुनः
दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः
सात्वं प्रकृतिर्जयर्मुक्तम्
सत्त्वं प्रकृतिर्जैर्मुक्तं
यद् एभिः सयत्रिभिर्गुणैः.
यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः
There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary system which is freed from all these three modes born of material nature. So whether we are in this material world or we are in the higher planet among the demigods, everything is impacted by the three modes. The manifestation is a little different, right? But everything is influenced by the three modes of material nature. That's how it has been designed, right? So here are some example, right? So what kind of happiness is the first one?
Passion.
Yes, passion. Keep eating, and then after that, it becomes a problem. Uh, the next one, second one, this is
Ignorance.
ignorance. Yes, yes. Initially, when I was introduced to cigarette, right? So I, I, I just hated it. But people will make this ring, right? They will smoke and they'll make ring, and they'll see how many ring I made. Like, oh, people thinks that I'm really cool, right? Uh, and that's what like it's the ignorance in the mode of sorry, in the happiness in the mode of ignorance. And the last one,
Goodness. Goodness. Goodness.
good,
goodness
and why it is goodness?
It starts when you're studying. You don't want to feel like studying, but you see the result is
Yes,
coming. You're gonna
yes,
pass the test.
yes, yes, yes. Okay, so learning, just not think that I'm happy, but think what is the level of my happiness, right? What experience? Like, do I want to experience the level of the classical music which I was talking about, or just beating on a wood on something, right? Something like that. Is this the only thing, or is there a better thing? So we have to think that the kind of happiness, do I really want to elevate and experience much better, right? So it is not that we want to leave the happiness and becomes unhappy, but we want to achieve higher level of happiness. This is a spiritual life. So this is very important point because a materialistic person is saying, oh, I am happiness. What you guys are talking about? I am happy. I have Tesla. I have a house. I work at Amazon or Google or Microsoft and I do this. I make that on that. Right? Yeah. But is that the happiness dick? Do I really want to live that kind of happiness or do I want to elevate the level of my happiness and go into the different realm? Right? So yes, we are happiness seeking entity, jivas. We are happiness seeking because our Lord is happiness seeking. Such Ananda. He's always in bliss. So we are part and parcel. So we are looking for that. But what kind of happiness are we seeking? Okay, so that's the learning. Any question? If not, We'll move to the next section. This is purification through prescribed duty of varnashrama. So now think that how Arjuna, so Lord is giving that, oh, everything is contaminated, everything is contaminated. The question may happen in Arjuna's mind that, oh, everything is contaminated, then what should I do? What is the way to move forward? Correct? And that's where, because Lord is Paramatma, he understands that what a jiva is thinking. So Lord is speaking by his own accord and is answering the natural question which may arise in our heart as we are studying it in a very focused manner. Right? So naturally, that, oh, if everything is contaminated, even the happiness is contaminated in three modes, what is the right way? How to move forward? Whether where I am climbing the ladder, Miss Krishna, you want me to change my level, and you want me to come to a level where I can experience the real happiness in 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 your company. How to go and do that, right? So that's where this varnashrama will be talked about. And before I go to varnashrama is not pure bhakti, by the way. Okay, varnashrama, again I'll repeat, varnashrama is not pure bhakti, but when not everybody knows about the pure bhakti, and kar- in the karma section, right? Um, 2.47 also, when the Lord says that everybody has to do everybody has to do the karma, and when we offer it to the, and then you have to do the nishkam karma, when it is done for the Lord, right? That karma start purifying myself. That varnashrama is created for us to work in a structure which leads to our purification. Again, varnashrama is a structure. If we follow the rule and work under that, then it will lead to purification and further elevation. But it is not pure bhakti. It is a stepping stone towards the pure bhakti. Okay, so this 8 verses will talk, and then we'll see what Lord is telling us. So, okay, so Lord here summarizes the total influence of the three modes of material nature all over the universe. Okay, that was the previous purport. Okay, text 41. Is there a question? Okay. Brahmana Kshatriya Brahmana Kshatriya Visham
Brahmana Kshatriya Visham
Shudra Nam Cha Parantapa
Shudranam Cha Param Tapa
Karmani Pravi Bhaktani
Karmani Pravi
Pravi
Bhaktani
Bhakti
Swabhava Prabhavir Gunahi.
Swabhava
Prabhavair Gunahi.
Prabhave Guna.
Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own nature in accordance with the material modes, O chastiser of the enemy. Do you remember the similar verse, similar things spoken in the earlier chapter? It says Guna Karma Vivashita. So Karmayani, Indriyani. So they were the words which talks about that. These 4 ashrams are divided based on the varna guna, not by the janma. It's by the varna guna, not by the janma. So here again, Lord is repeating: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own nature in accordance with the material modes. So our nature, we have certain inclination which tells us what kind of varna we belongs to. I might be born into by the caste. I might have born into the Brahmin family, but my inclination might be like a Sudra. I want to eat meat. I want to do this or that, right? So we have to realize, and it's nothing wrong in understanding inclination. It's not a Sudra is a bad class, right? Uh, so what I said is like that's more like a demonic nature, but Sudra is a working class. They like to serve. They enjoy like working for others. They don't take the leadership, while the Kshatriyas, they are taking more leadership roles. They are like trying to run the business, like run the enterprise, all those stuff, right? So these are born from our um, inclination, right? That's what determines our um, our varna. So next verse, samodap samodamastapa socham
शमदमस्तपः शौचम्
shantir arjavam evacha
शान्तिरार्जवमेव च
jnanam vijnanam ashiktam
ज्ञानं विज्ञानम् आस्तिक्यं
brahma karma sabhavajam.
ब्रह्मकर्म स्वभावजम्.
Peacefulness, self control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So, which chapter these qualities of the Brahmanas were discussed? Brahmanas, Kshatriya, Sudra. Do you remember?
16th, Prabhuji? I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
16. Yeah, 16 was there. Then the chapter 14 also, Lord talks about the some of the qualities of the Brahminical people, 20 qualities or something, right? He talks about. So yes, these things were discussed before also. So it's like a summary. So verse 43, Sauryam Tejo Dhritar Daksham
शौर्यं तेजो धृतिर्दाक्ष्यं
Yuddhe Chapi Apalyanam
युद्धे चाप्यपालयनं
Anam Ishvarash Bhavascha
दानमीश्वरभावश्च
Kshetram Karma Swabhavajam
शास्त्रं
Chatram.
कर्म स्वभावजम्.
Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Right? So heroism, leadership, right? So determination, these are the uh, these are the characteristics of the Kshatriyas. Krishi go rakshya vanijyam,
कृषिगोरक्ष्य वाणिज्यं
vaishya karma sabhavajam,
वैश्यकर्म स्वभावजम्.
parich परिचर्यात्मक कर्मे
परिचर्यात्मकं कर्म
Sudrasyapi Swabhavajam.
शूद्रस्यापि स्वभावजम्.
Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Sudras, they are labor and the service to others. Okay, so within these two, three verses, Krishna talks about the first verse. Krishna talk about the quality of the Brahmanas, right? The next verse he talks. So first he says that they are the four classes, the which is born out of the contact coming in the material nature, all right, and then peacefulness, self-control. These are different purity. These are tolerance, honesty. These are the from coming from the from Brahminical quality. This is leadership, resourcefulness, like I have a lot of network, right? Courage in battle and all those stuff coming from passion. And then um, sorry, I'm sorry, kshatriya, and then brahmana and kshatriya, and then farming, cow protection, that is vaisya, and then serving others, that is sudras. Okay, that's the reason we say that here in this right now in the Kali Yuga, most people are in the sudra quality. Everybody is working for somebody, right? So we are mostly Sudras, and there no Brahmanas, because the Brahmanas are not supposed. I won't say there no Brahmana, but very few Brahmanas, real Brahmanas, who who really trying to teach the right thing, but they are not expecting anything in return, right? So if somebody gives them any dakshina, they will take it. So they are not, because when the Brahmana is working for the remuneration, they cannot be authentic. Then they are thinking what my customer is thinking, judgment, right? They say that, oh my, that the person for whom I'm doing the puja and archana, what they want, and then accordingly I would do it, right? So naturally, so there's self-interest involved. So then, of course, I won't be following all the right thing. Okay. So now moving to the next verse. Swe swe karmani abhirata
स्वे स्वे कर्मण्य अभिरतः
shashindhyam labte nara
तत्सिद्धिं लभते नर.
स्वकर्मानिरत siddhim
स्वकर्मनिरतः सिद्धिं
yatha vindati tachunu.
यथा विन्दति तच्छृणु.
By following his quality of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. So, whether one is born Brahmana, Kshatriya, Sudra, Vaishya, doesn't really matter. What what is my psychophysical nature, right? Which is determining my varna. What is the? It's not talking about the 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 caste of the birth. It is talking about my real inclination, psychophysical nature. Through all of those, we can become perfect. It's not that only the Brahmana will be going to Godhead. No, the Sudra has the equal chance of going back to Godhead. Okay, so that's how. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. How this can be done. Maybe okay. Okay, let's try to finish. Yatha pravritir bhutanam
यतः प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां
yena sarvam idam tatam
येन सर्वमिदं ततं
swakarman karmana tam abhyarachya
स्वकर्मणा तम् अभ्यर्च्य
siddhim vindati manava.
सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः.
By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all being and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection to performing his own work. So by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all being and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So simple to understand if we are really uh, can relate with the Bhagavad Gita what we have studied. Like so, Lord is all pervading that we know. We know that we are part and parcel of the Lord, right? So we understand He is the source. With that understanding, any work I am doing, then I'm connecting that work to that all pervading Lord. And that will lead to perfection. That's the Varna Ashrama. So any work which I am doing in my Varna and the Ashrama, like doesn't matter whether I'm Brahmachari or Garastha or Vanaprastha or Sannyas, right? Doesn't matter. I'm Brahmana, Sudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, doesn't really matter. As long as I'm doing my work and dovetailing it to the Lord, right? That will slowly lead to perfection. Okay, it's a stepping stone towards the elevation. It's not bhakti, it's not pure bhakti, but it's a stepping stone. It creates a culture which becomes um, a stepping stone for us to keep making progress. So, as stated in the 15th chapter, all living beings are fragmental parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Supreme Lord is the beginning of all living entities. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra. Janmadhya Asya Itha. The Supreme Lord is therefore the beginning of life of every living entity. And as stated in the 7th chapter, the Supreme Lord, by his two energies, external energy and internal energy, is all pervading. He is the super soul of all demigods, all human beings, all animals, everywhere. So this is the understanding we have to generate. So just reading it doesn't really help. We have to imbibe this meaning in our life. Okay, that then I can see the all pervading Lord. One should therefore know that as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one has his duty to render service unto the Supreme. Now we should, okay, Lord is everywhere. I want to satisfy the Lord, serve the Lord. So even for the animal, how I can take care of the animal, cows, right, monkeys, or whoever, right? Take care of other human being, how to take care of them. So that is the connection. Now it is not self-interest. It is the right thing to do. The sense of duty is there. That's how we are connecting with the Lord. That varna, our inclination, the work what I am doing, doesn't matter whether I'm which class of man I am. It is helping me to connect to that work, to the Lord, and that is leading to my elevation. Very simple. Everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is the recommendation in this verse. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of the senses, and by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one thinks always in this way, so this is important, and by the result of the work, in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna should be worshipped. If one thinks, so basically offering the result to the Lord. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham aham samudharta. The Supreme Lord himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection. So Lord coming within us, give us the intelligence. Right? He motivates. That's how the Lord helps, or through the agency of the devotee. In most cases, through the agency of the devotees. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. Okay. So, so the while living in the Varnashrama, one is just not doing the work in Nishkam Karma Yogi. He is offering the work to the Lord, right? That will lead to the next thing, which is the if you go to the ladder by ladder, right? Jnana yoga, and then from Jnana yoga to different yoga. But now, if one goes directly to the bhakti, which is offering the result to the Lord, right? Now I want to please the Lord, whether I am a Jnani or the Karmi or whatever the Varna, it will directly we will be on the path of the bhakti beyond the Varnashrama. Okay, so there is two more verse. I don't want to rush. So we'll stop here. Verse 46. We will resume from here. Any question? Is it making sense? Chirag
Yes,
Prabhu?
Prabhuji.
Okay, Spriti Mataji, yeah, it's making sense. Okay. Chirag Prabhu, Revati Mataji, is it making sense?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Mridulata Mataji, how are you?
Pranam Prabhuji,
Are you
I'm
able to
fine.
are you able to
Yes,
follow Mataji? Okay.
but I have to go through once again, Prabhuji.
Please go
I'll,
Mataji.
I'll,
This is
I'll, I'll listen.
okay, Mataji. That's very good. Yeah, please go. And if you have any doubts, please do bring it. We are almost at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. I really want all of you to understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita, make the connection so that you all can progress. Okay? Anmol,
Yes.
does it make sense, Anmol?
It does. It does. And the kind of surprising thing that came across today was that the even the demigods are not, or like all kind of different devas are not free from the material modes, which was very interesting. Didn't think that way.
Oh, okay. So see, like we have talked about that demigod, they also have the age, they also die,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that they in the upper planet, one is burning the karma. So let's say if I've done a lot of piety, and but I had the inclination to enjoy, but I've done a lot of piety, then I'll be born as a demigod, and there I will be burning the karma. I won't be creating the reverse karma. I won't be creating the bad karma, but I will be burning my karma. So and those things are all in the modes, right? So mode are acting in a different way there, but it is the mode nonetheless, right? So yes, all right. Hare Krishna to all of you. And next week I think should be fine. Yeah, I will be able to do the class. Following week, I'll be at Sadhu Sangha. Do you guys know about the Sadhu Sangha? That's you just look for Sadhu Sangha. It's highly recommended if you can come. I think it's still this time they are doing in Dallas, so they have a lot more. Uh, Availability means availability in terms like it might be that they have closed it, but if somebody is making their own uh, okay, if somebody is making their own arrangement, probably you can go. So it's wonderful. Means it really helps uh, build a connection with the devotees, and then the kind of kirtan and the classes. So full like it's a full day. It's full of kirtan, and their morning one Bhagavatam class, and then full day kirtan. There are different kirtaniyas, wonderful kirtaniya all across the world. Right. So this is the main page, I think, Sadhu Sangha retreat. So you can check it out. If not this year, definitely plan to go next year. It has really helped us to develop the taste. My son and my daughter, they develop the taste for the kirtan due to this. So definitely it will help. Uh, is guaranteed. Okay. All right. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Sorry, sorry,
Hare
Prabhuji, I was away for a
No worries. No worries,
bit.
Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.